Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing.
Lady Di, who worked as a kindergarten teacher before joining the royal family when she married Prince Charles, had a vibrant connection to children and was often captured bending down to greet them on a personal level.
What King Charles just revealed about Princess Diana has shocked even the most seasoned royal watchers. After decades of silence, Charles has finally addressed the elephant in the room: his failed marriage and the devastating impact it had on the people's princess. At 76, Charles isn't just rewriting history, he's admitting his role in creating it. His unexpected warning to William about putting family before duty isn't just fatherly advice. It's a confession from a man who knows exactly how the public views his treatment of Diana.
Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother, was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family.
One of her most iconic moments was when she daringly walked through a landmine field during a trip to Angola in 1997.
And that admission might be the most shocking part of all. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Has King Charles finally admitted what the British public knew all along about Diana? At 76, our monarch finds himself wrestling with ghosts that refuse to fade. The crown may sit atop his head, but Charles remains haunted by the spectre of his first marriage, and what many call his greatest failure. Let's be brutally honest here. For decades, Charles hid behind the royal wall of silence, while everyone else shaped the narrative of his relationship with Diana. While the public witnessed a young bride abandoned to the cold machinery of the monarchy, Charles retreated into duty and tradition. Convenient shields against accountability. The isolation Diana endured within palace walls wasn't simply royal protocol, it was emotional abandonment of the highest order. While she desperately sought connection, Charles maintained his relationship with Camilla, creating a triangle that captivated and horrified the nation.
The Prince and Princess of Wales recently visited Wales, shining a light on practical examples of this community spirit.
She spent time at the McIntyre Community Center engaging with children with learning disabilities, and even stayed longer than she was scheduled to at a school for the hearing impaired in Italy.
How could a man supposedly raised to understand duty so thoroughly abandon it when it came to his wife? What's truly remarkable is that after years of stonewalling, Charles has reportedly acknowledged to close aides that his rigid adherence to royal tradition directly contributed to his marriage's collapse. This isn't some minor confession, it's an earth-shattering admission from a man who spent decades defending the indefensible. Behind closed doors, Charles has apparently come to the sobering realization that no crown can protect him from public memory. The British people haven't forgotten, and they likely never will. His legacy remains permanently tarnished by those infamous 3 people in this marriage years, a stain no amount of charitable work or environmental advocacy can fully remove. The monarchy's current struggle for relevance can be traced directly to this pivotal failure. When Charles chose tradition over compassion, when the institution circled wagons around him rather than supporting Diana, they created a wound in public trust that continues to fester today. The protection the monarchy offered him then has become a millstone around his neck now. As Charles faces his twilight years, sources close to the king suggest he's increasingly preoccupied with his place in history. He's acutely aware that Diana's legacy, her compassion, her humanity, her connection to ordinary people, continues to outshine his own in the public's heart. This isn't mere speculation. It's evident in how warmly the public still embraces anything connected to Diana, compared to their lukewarm reception of Charles. While the world sees William and Kate's marriage as a fairy tale redemption of the royal brand, behind palace walls, a very different conversation is taking place. The king has reportedly been giving his heir advice that would have been unthinkable during his own marriage to Diana.
Her faith in God, but also her faith in people, and it is one which I share with my whole heart.
In Bosnia, the Princess of Wales displayed her tenderness, holding hands with children she met on the trip and embracing them in her arms.
Put family before the crown at all costs. This stunning reversal reveals not just a father's concern, but a broken man's confession. Multiple palace sources confirm that Charles has been privately urging William to protect his marriage from the very institution that Charles once prioritised above all else. "Don't make my mistakes" is the core of his desperate plea, words that must taste like bitter ashes to a man who spent his entire life defending the traditions that ultimately destroyed his family. What makes this advice so extraordinary isn't merely its content, but its timing. Recent reports suggest that even William and Kate's seemingly perfect union has faced its own pressures behind closed doors. Charles, with his newfound clarity, recognises the dangerous parallels: the slow creep of royal obligations, the public scrutiny, the gradual erosion of privacy that can hollow out even the strongest relationship. The king's reversal on what matters most isn't some noble wisdom gained through reflection. It's the panicked realisation of a man who sees his son potentially repeating his catastrophic errors. His message that no royal duty or obligation is more important than family stands in stark contrast to everything he once embodied. It's a stunning admission that the principles guiding his entire existence were fundamentally flawed. Meanwhile, the strained relationship with Harry offers a painful counterpoint to Charles's attempts to guide William. Royal insiders indicate that Charles's regrets about Diana extend far beyond his marriage, affecting his relationship with Harry, who inherited his mother's emotional openness.
Finding ways to pay their bills and keep their families fed and warm. We see it in the humanity of people throughout our nations.
The late royal broke down barriers by embracing her soft side and showcasing her grace and affection to everyone she met.
The king's emotional distance, a product of his own royal upbringing, damaged both his sons in different ways, but only one remains within his sphere of influence. This desperate attempt at course correction comes too late to rehabilitate Charles's public image. The advice he's whispering to William isn't the sage wisdom of an experienced monarch. It's the confession of a man who realises exactly how history will judge his priorities and his treatment of Diana. His legacy is written. All he can hope to do now is prevent his son from earning the same harsh verdict. The uncomfortable truth is that despite all his efforts, Charles cannot rewrite public opinion. The British people have long memories, particularly when it comes to Diana. Recent polls show many Britons still view him through the prism of his past failings, not his current remorse. It's the ultimate check on royal power, not Parliament, not the press, but the unwavering judgment of ordinary citizens who've made up their minds about who the villain was in that particular fairy tale.
Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing.
Lady Di, who worked as a kindergarten teacher before joining the royal family when she married Prince Charles, had a vibrant connection to children and was often captured bending down to greet them on a personal level.
What makes this also fascinating is how it exposes the facade of royal untouchability. Charles may sit on the throne, adorned with crown jewels and surrounded by centuries of deference, yet he remains powerless against something as intangible as public sentiment. His late-in-life revelations and paternal warnings to William feel less like wisdom and more like surrender to this reality. For a nation increasingly disconnected from its monarchy, there's something almost satisfying about this reckoning. Even with all the wealth, privilege, and power at his disposal, Charles ultimately faces the same jury we all do: the collective memory of how we've treated others when it mattered most.